to talk about the Super Bowl. Mike Carlson around about 9:10. Going to talk Liverpool from last night. Is the choke already on? Is it underway? Are we witnessing it in real time? 8:45 this morning, we're going to talk about that. Darren's going to join us around about 8:35 to talk through the sports news. Ger and Eoin, going to talk to him around 8:15, and the sports pages. We'll get to the sports pages right now and on time for a change. Right, let's start with the Irish Times this morning. Schmidt, the back players who beat the All Blacks. Murray to return with Henshaw at fullback, likely to be the only other change. So now they have Nathan White in their team starting at number 3, but I presume that's just a typo. Unless, that would have been a much bigger story if Tadhg Furlong was out, right? So Rory Best, Cian Healy, Rory Best, Nathan White, it says in the Irish Times, but I presume that's not meant to be, that's Tadhg Furlong. It's Devin Toner, James Ryan, Peter Manny, Josh van der Fleer, CJ Stander, and on the bench, Jordan Larmour makes it, Joey Carberry and John Cooney. Also on the bench, Jordy Murphy, Ultan Dillane, Andrew Porter, Jack McGrath and Sean Cronin, which is interesting because that means Dillane has, sometimes the benches in these probable teams aren't right, but Quinn Roux seems to be a favourite of his, unless Roux picks up an injury, who knows.
Dellane's been going pretty well for Connacht as well, resulting in a new contract there recently. So
he was on the bench for a big game over the Christmas period. I came off the bench and I was like, what is it? Is he just coming back from injury, or were they resting him, or is he on the minutes? Maybe he's on minutes, I don't know.
Yeah, there's no question that if Joe Schmidt is looking towards next year or the year after, you're probably looking at Ultan Dillane, because who knows when Devin Toner is going to need to be replaced on a full-time basis. But towards the World Cup, is he going to... I never would have thought that he would have leapfrogged Quinn Roux in Joe Schmidt's thinking before the World Cup.
Dillane?
Yeah.
I think ultimately he's going to be a much better player in the long run, right?
Yes.
He's an explosive...
But Joe Schmidt, does he care about beyond this autumn?
I don't know. Do you remember how when Dillane came on against England, there was some times where
2016, wasn't it?
Just the whole thing would move. You can see him having an impact on the maul. I like that, you know?
It's a long time ago now at this point.
So we need a bit of Kerry bastardry in the team, don't we?
Well, for sure.
So slip up. We do not like this slip. Until Liverpool win a league, Steven Gerrard's slip is going to haunt them. Slip up. Liverpool failed to press home advantage at the top as Foxes snatched draw. The Ryan line, GAA chief Tom Ryan on Páirc Uí Chaoimh and Liam Miller controversy. We'll get into that in just a little while. Great piece from Jack Anderson today. Rules botch job made for GAA's winter of discontent. So he's pointing out that there was, it wasn't just the Liam Miller fiasco, it was also the fact that a bunch of new rules were brought in and then kicked out before they were properly trialled without anybody actually having any important data on it. And also very pointedly making the case that the Director General generally comes out and tries to sell stuff like this. Pádraig Duffy came out when the Sky deal was done. He was front and centre making the points. This is why we're doing it. Whether or not you agreed with him, he was at least out front and centre doing it. But when it came to the rules, there was nobody making that case. Fully loaded England have no excuses. This is Lawrence Delalio saying that Eddie Jones will have no excuses if his fully loaded England team lose to Ireland in the Six Nations. And GA bullied into hosting Miller games. So this was, again, Tom Ryan, the GA Director General, his annual report, which will be officially presented to Annual Congress next month. He had a line about... He stated in his report he felt the GAA had been bullied into a course of action by a public backlash. Now, had been bullied into a course of action is in quotes, but had been bullied into a course of action that they would have done anyway.
Yeah, that's the full quote.
Yeah. Can you be bullied into something you're going to do anyway? I suppose you can. When your ma's you're on your way to do something, your ma tells you to do it anyway. You're I was going to do it anyway. That kind of stuff.
Well, exactly.
Why are you telling me to do the stuff I was going to do anyway? That kind of stuff.
I'm just trying to... whenever you speak like that to a parent, I don't think you're ever in any rush to actually do that thing. And it did strike me that the GA weren't in any rush to make the Liam Miller testimonial match happen in Páirc Uí Chaoimh. Remember there was a story that came out on the Friday saying it's going to happen? And then it was actually, no, this hasn't been confirmed. And then it took an extra few days to actually come around to the idea that this should actually happen. I don't know. There was a very simple out for all of this at the time, and when the GAA talk about it now, and it seems that route hasn't been taken. So clearly, Tom Ryan feels very strongly about how put out the GAA were by.
Yeah, he also says they're going to change the rules so that they can, on a case-by-case basis, it doesn't have to go to. One, they won't be the structure of the rule book won't prevent them from doing this in future, and two, there'll be a much easier kind of rubber stamping to allow. I don't know if it's individual county boards to do it, but certainly maybe Central Council will be able to make decisions on cases like this. So it's these rules don't work. We're going to change them. We were bullied. But then on the news with Marty Morrissey last night, he said bullied was a strong word. Which isn't, you put it in, you kind of have to stand over it. No?
It's a very strong word, and when you're writing it out, it's a deliberate choice of words. So not sure why he wrote back on that one.
So here is the Irish Independent. Henshaw set for fullback as Van der Fleer gets the nod. So there is a consensus forming about what this team is going to be. Rory doesn't name the bench here. He says it's exactly the same team, except we're Ty Furlong in the Independence team this morning. Neil Francis, petulant Jones has reached point of no return with disgruntled England. I'm just a little bit wary of writing off Eddie Jones to the point where we're like, he's just a comic book, not even a supervillain anymore, just like, one of those extra baddies in the background. There's like Joker and Riddler and like he's Croc or somebody who you don't really know.
No, I think he's a baddie hiding in plain sight, where the baddie has had such a downward spiral that the baddie is no longer a threat, and then suddenly he is a threat.
Harvey Dent.
Exactly.
Ryan insists GAA will resist efforts to apply conditions to stadium grants. This was the other side of that whole conversation where Shane Rossett apparently said, look, it's public money that went into Páirc Uí Chaoimh. They should be opening this for a charity event in Cork, and apparently the GAA were very upset about that. Brendan Griffin apparently had also said that he would tighten up financial arrangements so that grant-aided projects should be available to all sports. That's something we'll have to insist upon, said Shane Ross at the time. And the GAA apparently are going to resist any attempts. There was an inference at the time that the GAA should be under some moral, if not legal, compulsion to allow the use of our pitches for other sports because the association or the specific pitch had received public funding. Any funding we receive is and should continue to be predicated solely on the intrinsic value of Gaelic games. I mean, that's an interesting case, and maybe that is the case. Maybe GAA clubs should be making the case that they of themselves are worthy of grants, but the corollary to that is that there's a limited pot of money and that the government has stated that they want to give multi-function community organisations money ahead of any individual sport. And so that you can see there being tension there into the future. That's not to say that individual GAA clubs and projects aren't of course absolutely worthy of funding, but we've got too many stadiums in the country that are lying mostly idle for large portions of the year and that aren't used properly.
And one of them is down in Cork at the moment. There's also a big vagueness around what the actual figure is there, and Tom Ryan didn't exactly help clear that up yesterday. He says it's somewhere in between 85 million and 110 million euro. At least that's the worst case scenario.
Yeah, at least he had some details. There's like 4 separate things that they need to sort out. There's a tax issue, there's a mediation dispute with a contractor, and there's a couple of other things as well that he said that is the reason for the inexactitude. But you would assume that like good quality QSs and accountants and auditors can kind of say, well, that is that window and that is that window, because it's still a massive difference between the lower end and the upper end. So I don't know. Anyway, the Irish News for you this morning. Carol Kane has this story. This is also part of the report. GAA uncertain over extra cash for casement. The GAA says it doesn't know where the money will come from for any potential overspend in the new casement park, on which 10 million has already been spent. So the estimate for construction was put at 77.5 million. The GAA was contributing 15 and the other 60 was coming from the public purse. But obviously with the situation in the north, the snafu that it is at the moment, then who knows when the hell that's ever going to change. But again, a complete disaster for the GAA in the north and in particular the GAA in Belfast.
Back page of the Herald this morning is pool fail in Foxhunt. League leaders unable to drive home advantage after City loss as they draw 1-1 with Leicester City. The back page of the Irish Daily Star meanwhile goes with cold feet. Klopp fumes as nervy Pool missed chance. You've got a stadium set to pay for itself, says Carl O'Kane there on Tom Ryan's quotes. And confusion reigns as Neil exits. So Hibs last night insisted they didn't sack Neil Lennon, but the Irishman claims he did not resign from his job as gaffer. So what is clear here is that the 47-year-old has officially left his post along with assistant Gary Parker, and Gordon Strachan has declared he's not interested in replacing Lennon. Last night the club tried to clarify the managerial situation that has rumbled on since Friday, because that was when Lennon was suspended at the time. Instead, the 300-word club statement provided more questions than answers. They insisted that Lennon was a roaring success as Hibs gaffer with records smashed on and off the pitch, and that the manager had done nothing wrong during a team meeting last Friday. So it'll be interesting to see if that one gets cleared up. Back page of the Mirror is Klopp cold snap. Klopp boss frustrated as Reds miss a golden chance to lengthen lead at the top of the table, and the GAA set to open their grounds is what they're taking from Tom Ryan yesterday. Back at the Sun then is skating on thin ice. Cop slip up in bid to go 7 points clear and spark pitch sweep row. Blue don't know what you're doing, says the headline then regarding Bournemouth 4, Chelsea 0.
Yeah, we didn't even talk about this. Sorry, ball. It's great. 3 teams. It's amazing. Great. Got the best out of these players. Fantastic. Yay. Whoa. That's basically Chelsea season in a 8-second sound effect.
Yeah, supporters chanting, "You don't know what you're doing," as the Italian replaced new signing Gonzalo Higuain with Olivier Giroud is probably the nadir of any situation there. You bring in Higuain, you replace him with Giroud. He has kind of like fessed up in the aftermath of the game, as Maurizio Sarri tends to do, and say, maybe I'm just incapable of motivating these players. Back page of the Irish Daily Mail is true believers. English jibes won't put us off, insists Best. And GA plan to settle stadium disputes. And you've also got a picture there of Harry Maguire, because Liverpool freeze as Foxes stand firm at Anfield.
You were saying off air this is the choke that you were waiting for. You were predicting Liverpool were going to choke. Liverpool are chokers. That's what you believe.
You've literally invented that conversation. If that's a way for you to introduce your own held belief that you desperately want Liverpool to choke, then that's fine.
I would like Liverpool to win the league to finally, give peace to the afflicted.
Well, we can have this conversation again next year and it will still be funny. So I don't think we should be wanting.
You don't think they're going to choke? Or you think this is a choke?
I think that if they'd won last night and then subsequently lost the league, it would have been a choke. I think once you're in that 6-point radius in the month of January, I think it's still, I think the pursuer still has every chance, as Manchester City do. They will have to go on an extraordinary run, and I think what we saw 2 nights ago is an Achilles heel mentally that Manchester City have. And
do Liverpool now also have one?
I think they have.
Or should they have had a penalty and there should have been a red card and they got screwed last night and that's all that happened? And they'll come out of this going, we got screwed, don't worry about it. We're not going to get screwed every game and let's not leave it in the hands of the referees. Come on.
Potentially, but if they'd won that game last night, for example, the cliche would have been, these are the type of games that champions win.
Yeah,
and
loads of those this season where they have won. There should have been a red card. Keita should have penalty. Did he not dive properly? Is that what happened?
Well, he needs to take some tips from Mo Salah.
I mean, come on. If you're in that dressing room and Keita doesn't go down when he's clearly getting tripped, afterwards everybody's going, get down! No?
Well, absolutely you are, given the way it currently is. But I think the Keita incident is also kind of a backup for what Mo Salah's been doing in recent weeks, where you've got to flop sometimes to actually get what you deserve. Which is unfortunate, but I wouldn't be blaming Salah too much for that. The Racing Post, I almost call it the Racing Post, like you do every morning. The Racing Post, finally, the back page goes with Men of Steel, Rugby League superheroes ready for battle in Betfred Super League. And the front of the Racing Post is stand down and balance, but Dublin Festival hopes high. I presume that's to do with the weather this weekend. Of course, it is a Dublin Racing Festival at Leopardstown this weekend.
And, weather's going to be good on Saturday. It's going to be clear, it's going to be cold, but it's going to be clear and crisp.
Yeah, clear and crisp, and it's very hopeful that the 2-day festival is going to go ahead.
Yeah, I'd say it's nailed on. It's going to go ahead. So we have a pair of tickets to Ireland against England to give away on OTB AM this morning with thanks to Glen Isk. You can, very easy to enter this, just retweet or share the stream wherever you're watching, on YouTube, on Facebook or on Twitter. Make sure you're following at Off The Ball AM on Twitter or at Off The Ball on Facebook, and you can tag whoever you're bringing in the comments, and we're going to announce the winner at the end of this morning's OTB AM. So you've got an hour and a half left to enter this. And you could be heading along to watch Ireland 42, England 6 on Saturday. That'd be good afternoon's work, wouldn't it?
It would. The 6 points would be a real craw on the tooth.
For us, though?
Well, for us to see.
Oh, no, two penalties. One early. It's 9-6 at half time, and then we just come out and blow them away.
Well, if the 2 penalties are given away by Robbie Henshaw running from full back and absolutely decking somebody, then I'll absolutely be happy with that.